for getting revenge after my family threw a huge party at my house without me? My name is Olivia, I'm 34 years old, and I work for a large construction firm that manages projects across several states. One day I'm reviewing blueprints, the next I'm closing contracts, and the day after that I'm coordinating with suppliers. That's just how it is. The job pays well, no doubt, but it devours your time. I live out of a suitcase, constantly traveling, supervising, and troubleshooting to make sure everything runs on schedule. 3 years ago, I bought this house in a quiet, planned community in a suburb of Denver, complete with a security gate at the entrance. It wasn't cheap and the mortgage is substantial, but with my position and performance bonuses, I was managing it. It had a small yard, a 2-car garage, and security. Exactly what I'd wanted since I was younger. A space of my own where no one could tell me what to do. My family is pretty standard. My parents and my older sister, Jessica. She's married to Mark and they have 2 young kids. I love them, of course, but after spending time with them, my head is usually ringing. Jessica was always the one to say, "Family comes first." I, on the other hand, chose to focus on my career, on growing professionally, on building something for myself. And yes, because of that, I don't see them as often as I probably should. My job has me running all over the country. When I finally get home, all I want is to sleep, eat a quiet meal, and shut out the world for a little while. But even with my schedule, I've always supported them. It's hard to say it like that because it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. My dad worked in construction for many years just like me, and a few years ago he had a serious back injury on the job. He couldn't work anymore. He was left with a permanent limitation that took him out of the workforce, and the disability benefits they receive don't cover everything. So, for a long time now, I've been helping them with their mortgage. It's not a small amount. Every month I sent them $1,000. And then there's my sister. Last year they took the plunge and bought one of those big 3-row family SUVs for the kids. The monthly payment quickly became a huge burden for them. They came to me and I ended up helping them too. Another $600 a month. And that was just the major stuff because the smaller requests never ended. Groceries here, new shoes for the kids there, a doctor's copay, or other bills piling up. I didn't even keep track of the small things anymore. I'd just see the text message, take a deep breath, and make the bank transfer. My mom would call me about once a week. She'd always start affectionately asking, "How are you, sweetie?" And always, without fail, she would end the call by mentioning some new expense that had come up. I'd send the money through my banking app and move on with my life. It became a routine, as if I were a line item in the family budget. Last month, my company informed me that a major project was launching. We were opening a new regional office in Austin, Texas. They wanted me to go for 4 weeks to set up the office, coordinate with local contractors, finalize major contracts, and get everything up and running. It was a fantastic opportunity. If it went well, it would put me on the fast track for one of those promotions that don't come around twice. So I called my mom. "Mom, next week I'm heading to Austin for work. I'm going to be gone for about a month. Can you keep an eye on the house? You still have the spare key, right?" "Of course, honey. Don't you worry about a thing. Your dad and I will make sure everything is fine." With that reassurance, I felt at ease. I left early on a Monday. I flew to Austin and checked into a decent corporate hotel near the future office site. From the first day, it was a grind. Meetings, site visits, supplier negotiations, endless paperwork, and non-stop calls. 12-hour days were the norm, but I'm good at what I do. And things started falling into place quickly. In the first 2 weeks, I closed 3 major contracts, well ahead of schedule. The clients were happy, the company was thrilled, and a single word started echoing in my head: promotion. I called my parents twice a week for quick check-ins. "Everything's fine, everything's fine." And that was it. I wasn't in the mood for long conversations. Then one night, heading into the 3rd week, my mom called me with an urgency in her voice that sent a shiver down my spine. "Olivia, honey, I'm so sorry to bother you, but we have a serious problem." Exhaustion was clinging to me like a second skin. I sat down on the hotel bed. What happened? The main sewer line at our house backed up horribly. The water is coming back up. It smells awful and we can't really use the bathrooms. It's a disaster. My chest tightened. "Have you called a plumber?" "He says they have to excavate and replace a whole section of the main pipe, redo the cleanouts and fix it properly because otherwise it will just happen again. He says it's very expensive, honey. $5,000. $5,000 was a lot even for me. But what was I going to do? I wasn't going to leave my parents dealing with a problem like that. It's okay, Mom. I'll transfer it to you tonight. Thank you, my love. Really. I don't know what we would do without you. I hung up and, without giving it another thought, made the transfer. Then I started preparing my presentation for the next day. I had bigger things on my mind. I wasn't going to let a sewer line issue weigh me down from 1,000 miles away. By the end of the third week, everything was locked in. Contracts were signed, the office was operational, and the local team was trained. I was a full week ahead of schedule. I called my boss. Everything is done. The major contracts are signed, the office is running, and the team is ready. As of today, we are fully operational. On the other end of the line, there was genuine surprise. This is excellent, Olivia. Really, when you get back, we're going to talk. I have a feeling you've earned something big. I laughed, tired but happy. Thank you. And one more thing, he added. Take the rest of the week off. You've earned it. Consider it your reward for finishing early. I hung up with an excitement that I could barely contain. A promotion was on the horizon, I had a week off, and I had the deep satisfaction of a job well done. I decided not to tell my family I was coming back early. I wanted to surprise them. I thought, for the first time in a long time, that maybe we could actually spend some quality time together, without the usual rush, without the quick everything's fine call followed by the next deposit request. On Saturday morning, I packed my suitcase and took an afternoon flight. From the plane, I was already imagining my house. The silence, my couch, a quiet dinner, a hot bath, and sleeping without an alarm. I landed at Denver International on Sunday around 6 in the evening. I got a rideshare and we left the airport, hitting some light traffic on the way. As we got closer to my neighborhood, that familiar sense of calm that comes with returning home began to settle over me. The street, the houses, the trees, everything was the same. Until I saw my house. My calm evaporated in an instant. There were cars everywhere. My driveway was full, and vehicles were parked all along the street in front of my house, one after another. I did a quick count, about 8 or 9 of them. From inside, loud music was blasting, as if it were a wedding reception. It's here, I told the driver, pointing with a trembling hand. I got out with my suitcase and just stood there for a few seconds, staring at the lights on in several rooms, the silhouettes moving inside, the sounds of laughter and loud voices. It was my house. My house. I walked to the front door, took out my keys, and opened it. The first thing that hit me was the smell. A mix of food, alcohol, and too many people packed into one space. The second thing was the noise. Music, booming laughter, kids running around, people shouting over each other. The living room was filled with relatives. Cousins I hadn't seen in months, aunts I barely spoke to, family acquaintances I could hardly remember. They were eating at my dining table, serving themselves from my kitchen, drinking out of my glasses, and dancing in my living room. And on the wall, right where I had a painting I loved, hung a huge professionally made banner. The whole family is here in big red letters. No one saw me at first. I walked in with my suitcase, weaving my way through the crowd, and spotted the sound system. I pushed through the throng of people without saying a word. My hands were shaking. I couldn't tell if it was from anger or disbelief. I reached the speakers and shut off the music. The silence fell like a physical blow, and then every head in the room turned toward me. The expressions were like something out of a movie. Wide eyes, half-open mouths, people frozen mid-laugh. A little kid stopped running and just stared at me as if I were a ghost. What is going on here? I asked, trying to keep my voice from breaking. No one answered. I just heard whispers. It's Olivia. She's back. Wasn't she supposed to be gone for another week? My mom appeared, pushing her way through the crowd. She was pale, wearing that "this got out of hand" expression. Honey, you're early. She grabbed my arm and tried to pull me toward the kitchen. Come on, let's talk in here. I resisted at first, but she pulled me anyway. In the kitchen were my dad, Jessica, Mark, and their kids, all with plates of food in their hands. They saw me, and the color drained from their faces. Jessica was the first to speak, and she chose the worst possible thing to say. What is she doing here? My blood boiled. What am I doing here? I repeated, my voice rising. Jessica, this is my house. Mine. What are you all doing here? My mom looked nervously toward the living room. Olivia, lower your voice, we have guests. I looked at her as if I'd never seen her before. Lower my voice, Mom? There are 50 people in my house, and you're telling me to lower my voice. My dad tried to intervene. We're just having a family get-together, that's all. I let out a short, incredulous laugh. Sure, that's all. With a banner and everything. I turned to look at my mom. And why wasn't I invited? Jessica shrugged as if I were being dramatic. You were going to be gone for another week. We didn't want to bother you. Bother me, I said. This is my house. My mom held up her hands as if trying to calm a storm. I'm sorry, honey. We got a little carried away. We just wanted to get everyone together. You're always so tired or busy, and you don't like these kinds of parties. That part was true. I hate big gatherings, the noise, the intrusive questions, the pressure of where's your boyfriend? And when are you getting married? And why don't you visit more often? But that wasn't the point. The point, I said, speaking more slowly, is that you used my house without asking me. You threw a party here and didn't even tell me. Jessica rolled her eyes. Oh, you're being so dramatic. It's just a party. The kitchen fell silent because in my head, something had just clicked into place. The money. I turned to look at my mom. The $5,000 you asked me for 2 weeks ago. That was for this. My mom lowered her gaze. She didn't say anything, just gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. I froze. So you lied to me. You told me it was the sewer line. You made me believe it was an emergency, and it was to throw a party in my house. While I was gone. My mom tried to step closer. Olivia, listen. No, I cut her off. You listen. I transferred you that money because I thought you were in trouble. I was worried sick and you used it for this to pay for food, drinks, rental chairs, the sound system, and even that banner. For an event I wasn't even invited to. Jessica took a step forward, defiant. Look, don't go kicking everyone out and making a scene. People came to socialize. If you embarrass them, it's over. You can't count on us for anything anymore. You're going to end up all alone. I stared at the four of them. My dad looked stoic, my mom was fidgeting, my sister was cold, and Mark was silent, as if this had nothing to do with him. And the worst part was that none of them looked remorseful. They looked annoyed, as if the real problem was that I had come home early. I didn't say anything else, not because I had nothing to say, but because I understood that talking right then was useless. I left the kitchen and walked back through the living room, through the uncomfortable stares and hushed whispers. Someone tried to say my name. An aunt tried to greet me as if nothing was wrong. I walked right past them, went up the stairs, entered my bedroom, dropped my suitcase on the floor and lay down staring at the ceiling. Downstairs the party continued. The laughter returned little by little. The music came back on, softly at first, then louder, as if I didn't exist, as if my house were just a rented venue and I was the killjoy who had shown up unannounced. And lying there on my bed, it all began to sink in. They had planned this for when I wasn't around. They didn't want me there. They wanted my space, my money, my comfort, all put at the service of their desire to show off for the family. And it wasn't just this party. I remembered other times, gatherings I found out about after the fact, from photos on social media showing a happy, united family. Whenever I'd ask, hey, why didn't you let me know? The answer was always the same. Oh, it was just a small thing. We know you're busy. But when it was time to pay for something, that's when they sought me out. I must have fallen asleep because hours later I heard them leaving. Car doors slamming, engines starting, voices saying their goodbyes. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. My mom knocked on my bedroom door. Olivia, it's over now. Since you got back early, you can take care of cleaning up tomorrow. We're leaving now. In that moment, I knew for sure that it wasn't an oversight. It was a habit. She didn't wait for a response. I heard her footsteps go down the stairs, then the front door closed and then silence. The next morning I went downstairs and the house was a disaster. Empty bottles, cans, and dirty plates were everywhere. Used napkins were tossed on the floor, food was smeared into the carpet, the sink was overflowing, and a huge dark red stain like red wine was spread across my light-colored couch. I stood in the living room with my hands on my hips, breathing slowly to keep from exploding. I grabbed my cell phone and called a professional cleaning service. I need you to come today as soon as possible. It's a real mess. I'll pay the rush fee. I hung up. I sat at the table and opened my banking app. I did what I should have done years ago. I canceled all the recurring transfers. The help with my parents' mortgage. Canceled. The monthly payment for Jessica's SUV. Canceled. The grocery money, the kids' clothes allowance, everything. Every financial tie that bound me to them was severed in that moment. I didn't notify them. I didn't owe them an explanation. They knew perfectly well where that money came from. They just played dumb when it suited them. The cleaning crew arrived that afternoon and worked for hours. They left the house smelling fresh and clean. They organized, scrubbed, and vacuumed. When they left, my house looked like my house again. The next day I had the locks changed. I called a locksmith and that was that. The old spare key was useless. I took the rest of the week off, just like my boss had suggested. I drove up to Estes Park for 3 days and checked into a quiet hotel. I needed silence, a clean bed, peaceful meals, and most of all, to be far away from my house so I wouldn't be haunted by the image of that banner and the sound of their laughter. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages from my mom. How are you, sweetie? Want to have dinner with us this weekend? I miss you. I didn't reply. The following Monday I returned to work, calmer and more focused. There, at least people valued me for what I did. Before things could get any uglier, I told my boss what had happened. Not so he could fix my life, but just so he would be aware of the situation if my family tried to cause problems at my job. That same day my boss called me into his office. I've been thinking about what we discussed. I want to officially offer you the position of director for the new Austin operation. It comes with a significant raise and a full relocation package if you decide to take it. I was breathless for a second. Really, thank you. Think about it calmly, there's no rush. But I would like you to be the one to lead it. I walked out of his office with a strange mix of emotions. Excitement for the job and a hollow feeling about everything else. Exactly 2 weeks passed after the party. By then, the automatic payments had been declined, and the bank had sent out notifications. That day, reality finally hit them. My cell phone blew up. First, the missed calls one after another. My mom, my dad, Jessica, Mark. I didn't answer. Then came the text. What happened with the mortgage payment? The bank notified us. Why didn't the payment for the SUV go through? Call me right now. You don't do this, Olivia. Don't be so immature. We need to talk like adults. I deleted everything without replying. The next day when I got home from work, I was making dinner when someone started banging on my front door. They weren't knocking, they were pounding. I peeked through the window. All 4 of them were there, my mom, my dad, Jessica, and Mark. I didn't open the door. Olivia, we know you're in there, my mom yelled from outside. And then I heard the sound that confirmed what they had always done, what their entire relationship with me was based on, entitled presumption. The key. My mom tried to put her spare key in the lock. I heard it jiggle, but it wouldn't turn. Why isn't it opening? I heard her say, her voice filled with desperation. I put on my headphones, sat at the table with my plate, and continued eating while they kept banging and yelling outside. At some point, their voices grew quieter, as if a neighbor had looked out or as if security had started watching. They stayed for about 20 minutes, then finally got tired and left. Later, other relatives started calling, the same ones who had been at the party. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all singing the same tune. That I was exaggerating, that it was just a party, that family forgives, that you don't treat your parents like this. I would hang up without arguing. A week later, as I was leaving work, I saw them in the parking lot, standing next to my car. I thought about turning back, but I was tired of running. I walked toward them. My mom started crying as soon as she saw me. Honey, please, you're being so cruel. We're going to lose the house. I took a deep breath and took out my car keys. That is no longer my problem. My dad took a step forward and spoke to me with a threatening tone I'd never heard from him before. If you don't drop this nonsense, we're going to talk to your boss. We're going to tell him how you're treating your own family. A joyless laugh escaped me. Go ahead. He already knows everything, and he doesn't think you're the victims here. The 4 of them fell silent. I opened my car door and before getting in, I told them without raising my voice, If you come looking for me here again, or if you show up at my house, I will file for a restraining order. I am not playing around. I got in, started the car, and drove away. A couple of months passed, and I thought they had finally understood. I was wrong. The Facebook posts started. My mom shared dramatic memes about debts and children who forget their parents. My sister uploaded photos of receipts talking about how she could no longer afford the SUV, how she might have to sell it, and how no one understands the sacrifices of being a mother. They didn't use my name, they didn't have to. Everyone knew who they were talking about. The comments were a parade of guilt-tripping. How sad. Family comes first. I can't believe there are children like that. You have to respect your parents. And then came the direct messages, from people who hadn't spoken to me in years but who now felt entitled to an opinion. The most ironic part was that several of them had also asked me for money in the past. An uncle, Robert, sent me a very long text saying he was disappointed in me, the same uncle I had lent $2,500 to 2 years ago to fix his truck, which he never paid back. An aunt, Susan, called me crying, saying that my parents were such good people, the same aunt who had asked me for help with her daughter's wedding expenses last year, and I had given her $2,000. I stopped answering. I blocked, I deleted, I closed the door. And that's when my boss's offer stopped being just a career move. It became my way out, a way to start over. I scheduled a meeting with him. I've thought about the position, I told him. I want it. When do I start? He smiled as if he already knew my answer. I was hoping you would accept. We can have you settled in less than 2 months. We'll cover your relocation, and the salary bump is significant. You're going to build that operation from the ground up, and that suits you perfectly. I'm excited, I told him, and it was true. We shook hands and I walked out with a feeling I hadn't felt in years, lightness. That same night, I got home and started planning. If I was moving to Austin, it made no sense to keep the house. It hurt because I had made it my own, but it was the most logical decision. The next day I spoke with a real estate agent. I need to sell my house and I need to do it fast. I'm relocating for work. The market in this area is hot right now, she told me. With a house like yours, we could have offers in a few weeks. And she was right. 2 weeks later, I had several proposals. I chose one that was above our asking price and offered a quick closing. I didn't tell my family anything. I wasn't going to give them time to stage another drama or ask me for one last handout. The week before I left, Jessica showed up at my work again. This time she came alone. Her face looked tired, like she hadn't been sleeping. Just give me 5 minutes, she asked, almost begging. I looked around. People were walking by and some were already starting to stare. You have too. We're doing really badly, she said, her lips pressed into a thin line. My kids keep asking, why don't we see Aunt Olivia anymore? Mom and Dad could really lose their house. I might lose the SUV. I looked at her and felt no guilt. I felt clarity. That is no longer my responsibility. But we're family, she insisted. I shook my head. No, you made it clear that I'm not. You made it clear when you threw a party at my house and didn't even tell me. You made it clear when you threatened me for being angry. You don't treat me like family. You treat me like an ATM. That's not true, she said, but her voice had no conviction. I stepped a little closer, my voice low and steady. When was the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? Without asking for anything? When did you ever invite me to something where there wasn't an expense for me to cover? Jessica stayed quiet. I'm moving to Austin next week, I told her. Don't look for me. Her eyes widened as if she couldn't believe it. You can't just leave us like this. I looked at her calmly. Yes, I can. I got in my car and left. That was the last conversation I had with any of them. The move went smoothly. The new city welcomed me with a different rhythm, but I liked it. The job was demanding and challenging, and for the first time in a long time, I was surrounded by people who wanted nothing from me, except for me to do my job well. I rented an apartment in a downtown high-rise while I looked for a place to buy later on. Everything felt new and light, free from judging eyes and text messages asking, "Hey, can you send some money?" Sometimes out of curiosity, I still look at their social media profiles. My parents ended up selling their house and moved into a smaller rental. Jessica traded the SUV for an older, more practical car. And they're fine. They're just living on what they can actually afford now, the way it should have been from the beginning. From time to time, I wonder if I did the right thing. And then I remember that banner in my living room. The whole family is here. And I remember how no one, not a single person, asked about me. No one said, "Hey, what about Olivia?" No one even noticed that the owner of the house wasn't there. In that moment, I understood everything. They didn't want a daughter, and they didn't want a sister. They wanted a steady paycheck. And I finally stopped being one. Now I'm building a new life. One where I am valued for who I am, not for what I can give. It took me 34 years to understand the difference, but at least I finally understood it. The promotion came with a significant salary increase, and for the first time in years, my money stays with me. And with that, for the first time in a very long time, I've reclaimed something I had lost, my peace. I learned something that was painful to accept, but it saved me. Helping is not the same as enabling others at your own expense. I used to believe that love was measured in bank transfers, in solving everyone's problems, in enduring their slights and silences just to keep the peace. And one day, I understood that the kind of peace you have to buy always ends up being far too expensive. Comment. Thinking about this journey really highlights the difference between helping and enabling. I believe setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It is about honoring your own well-being. True kindness must always include being kind to yourself, a truth that can take a long time to learn. You always have the right to build a life where you are valued for who you are, not just for what you can provide. Choosing your own peace is never a selfish act. It is a profound form of self-respect. Redefining these dynamics can be one of the hardest things to do, especially with family. I hope this story gives you the courage to look at your own life and protect your own peace. Remember that creating a healthy space for yourself allows real relationships to be built on mutual respect. You absolutely deserve to be in relationships that feel supportive, not just demanding. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.